What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Time. I am your host, Jacob Cuz, the Fantasy Guy, and today, you guys know what it is by now, but if you're new to the channel, we got Start 'em, Sit 'em, or Get Rid of 'em. Another episode, another week's edition, and of course, always accompanying that is the injury report. And let me tell you, folks, you are going to want to tune into the injury report this week. Massive injury report with some massive names on there, and you are going to want to make sure that you know who is on the bench, who's not going to play, because it could cost you. And we saw it last week, costing some people some poor performances because some key players were out. Right? It cost some people. I've seen it. I've seen the tweets, right? So make sure that you tune into the injury report. Make sure that you guys are checking the Google Sheets, just because of all the information that we talk about in the videos, right, is on that Google Sheet. So make sure you're checking that this week. It's super important going into week 2 of fantasy playoffs. Last week was a weird week. I mean, the amount of people on COVID list, right, of the amount of unknowns stepping up, or the amount of people who have been out of the spotlight for a long time, stepping up, handling business. As a fan, you love to see it. As a fantasy football player, you hate it. You absolutely hate it. So make sure you guys are tuning into that injury report, because some of those guys may shine again this week. So you do not want to miss it. All right. But if at any point during this video, like what you're seeing, please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new videos drop, and they drop every Wednesday and Friday, you're right there to consume the content, because we're dropping knowledge all season long. It's right there at your feet. You just got to look down, pick it up, shove it in that head of yours, shake it around, and boom. Better fantasy player and a more knowledgeable football human being, right? Because that's what it's all about, right? If you're not growing, you are dying. So to smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification to stay up to date on all the latest content. But let's get into it in another weekly edition of Start 'em, Sit 'em, or Get Rid of 'em. Alrighty, let's get right into this. If you're new to the channel, new to fantasy football, new to Start 'em, Sit 'em, or Get Rid of 'em, basically how it works is what I have done is I have 4 categories for you, right? I got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Within those categories, I have 3 players for you that I feel that, looking at everything on paper, they should have good weeks. Looking at the matchup that they have, looking at the defense that they're going against, right? Looking at all of that, that's where I'm kind of going off my judgment. So looking at all of that, I have 3 players for you in each category, and then I have kind of added something for the stardoms, which is honorable mention. So if I'm looking at kind of everybody who's really playing this week, and I feel like, well, you know what, maybe there is more than 3 people who kind of deserve to get kind of mentioned here, that's where I have the honorable mention. So, you know, it may fluctuate. Usually it's around 1 to 2 players, so it's nothing too crazy. But honorable mentions is something that I have added, and it's just because I feel like these quarterbacks as well might deserve a look. They might, right? They might deserve a look, okay? So we always start with the quarterbacks first. So starting us off, your number 3 stardom quarterback this week is Matt Stafford. A little bit of a struggle week last week. Against Seattle. They ended up pulling it out. I didn't have the greatest of games, but I think on the road going into Minnesota, big game here for both teams, right? The Rams just need to keep winning, honestly, because it looks like the Cardinals are slipping. And then you got the Vikings, right? The Vikings need to keep winning to get into the playoffs, right? They need to win to save their playoff hopes. So this is going to be a really good game, a really competitive game, but I think Matt Stafford this week lights it up, has a really good game. So Matt Stafford starting us off at your number 3 stardom quarterback, right? Moving on to your number 2, right? Your number 2 starting quarterback. We got the guy that he was, I believe he was on this list a few weeks ago. A little bit of a downturn, but I think he's back. I think he is back, and that is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is your number 2 stardom quarterback this week, and against the Giants, okay. Let's forget about that first game. Let's just wipe it from our memories. I think, just like last week against Washington, I think he's going to ball out. He's trying to put this team on his back, trying to do it, and I think he can. I honestly think he can. He's got the mental for it. He's got the toughness for it. He's got the heart for it. So Jalen Hurts is going to be your number 2 quarterback this week against the New York Giants. Moving on to your number 1 quarterback this week. It's the kid. Number 1 this week is Justin Herbert. Yes, taking on Houston. I mean, you got to love the matchup if you're in your fantasy playoffs here. You got to love the gifted matchup that you have right now, which is Justin Herbert against that Houston defense. If all goes the way it's supposed to go, we're looking at a high point fantasy game here. So Justin Herbert taking on that Houston defense that, hey, they play tough. Houston plays tough. But I think Justin's arm. I think that Charger team that is good. You know, keep an eye out though. There might be a few Chargers on the list later on in the video. But Justin Herbert against that Houston defense, I like the matchup. So Justin Herbert is going to be your number 1 starting quarterback this week against that Houston defense. Now, we do have some honorable mentions this week for quarterback. Your first honorable mention this week, and he had a bad week last week, is Taysom Hill. Yes, Taysom Hill kind of figured he was going to have a bad week last week. Did have a bad week last week. This week, I think he has a good week. Miami is rolling. Miami is rolling, don't get me wrong. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring, high-competitive game. He's definitely probably going to get some rushing touchdowns, a few passing touchdowns. So Taysom Hill, I like here, so that he is going to be your first honorable mention. And then your second honorable mention, or I guess your number 1 honorable mention, is going to be Tyler Huntley. So, folks, if Lamar is out, go get Tyler Huntley. So I love the Bengals. They are my team. But the Bengals have struggled against a running quarterback like that. Tyler Huntley, I think we're in for another competitive game, just like we saw against Green Bay. I mean, he took Green Bay to the very end, right? So I think Tyler Huntley against that Bengals defense, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a super competitive game. I know the first game was a blowout, which I loved. It would be great if this game was a blowout, but I think this game is going to be competitive. Tyler Huntley can ball, and he's going to be available. So if you need a quarterback, if your quarterback suddenly goes down with COVID, you might want to look at Tyler Huntley. So he's going to be your number 1 honorable mention this week at quarterback. So moving on to the running backs. Your number 3 running back this week is, and he's back. He's back, folks. James Robinson. Oh my gosh. Urban. Ay, Urban. I mean, thank you, Darrell Bevell, for freeing this man and getting this guy back involved in the offense. I mean, it blows my mind. But James Robinson is back, has a great matchup against the Jets, so he's going to be your number 3 running back this week. If you didn't know, the Jets have over 15 players out with COVID, so great matchup for James Robinson owners there. Moving on to your number 2 running back this week, and that is going to be David Montgomery. I know. This one's kind of iffy, but they're taking on Seattle. Justin Fields looks good. I like the way Justin Fields looks. He looks like he has gotten way better as the season's progressed. So I think that's a good sign. And I think David Montgomery gets involved in this game against Seattle. Seattle's prone to not be very good on defense. I mean, we saw it against the Rams, right? But I think David Montgomery gets the touchdowns. I think he gets a couple rushing touchdowns, and he has a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. So watch out for that. And your number one running back this week is Cordarrelle Patterson, taking on that Lions defense. Gritty team, really tough team, the Lions, but I think Cordarrelle and the Atlanta Falcons here get some big touchdowns and some receiving touchdowns, some rushing touchdowns. So the nice thing about Cordarrelle is you can put him at running back or wide receiver. That's the beauty of it, right? Or flex. I mean, how versatile can you be, right? So Cordarrelle Patterson is going to be your number 1 running back this week, going up against Detroit. Now, we do have 2 honorable mentions this week for running backs, okay? We do have some honorable mentions in each category this week because it looks like it might be one of those weeks again. So your number 2 honorable mention is going to be DeAndre Swift. My DeAndre Swift owners, which is myself. It looks like he may be coming back. Reports are it looks like he's going to return to practice. He looks expected to play. Great news. Has a good matchup against Atlanta again. So DeAndre Swift is going to be your number 2, I guess, honorable mention right now. And then your number 1 honorable mention is going to be Ronald Jones. Leonard Fournette looks to be going to the IR. So Ronald Jones will take over the duties in the backfield. He's definitely not Leonard Fournette, I'll say that. But He might have a chance to go off. He could be one of those undercover players that goes off in Week 16. So make sure you look out for that. But Ronald Jones is going to be your number one honorable mention for running backs. Moving on to wide receivers. Your number 3 wide receiver. And it's because everybody looks to be out on that receiving core almost. Not really everybody, but your number 3 is going to be Antonio Brown. Yes, he's coming back off suspension. We'll see what happens. This one's kind of a tentative one just because I believe Bruce Arians going to let him play, but I'm not too sure, honestly. But if he does play, definitely number 3 with Chris Godwin going down. I mean, he's going to see some action for sure if he is able to play, if Bruce Arians lets him play. Antonio Brown is a definitely start in Week 16. I can promise you that. Your number 2 wide receiver this week is T. Higgins. Yes, not Jamar Chase. I know my Jamar Chase owners, but T. Higgins. T had one bad game out of I think 3 or 4 solid games in a row, and I think he has another solid game against Baltimore. Like I said, I think it's a competitive game. I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think T is going to be the perfect target for some red zone targets. I think he gets a couple touchdowns, so I'm going T. Higgins as your number 2 wide receiver this week. Your number 1 wide receiver this week is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk against that Indiana defense. Now, you don't need a quarterback to light it up on the fantasy scoreboard to score a lot of points. If you look at what he did last week, right? And then you look at what Kyler did last week, right? So Christian Kirk is a great option here just because DeAndre Hopkins is gone, right? DeAndre Hopkins is gone. So Christian Kirk is the main guy with AJ Green, but Kyler does like Christian Kirk a lot. So Christian Kirk is going to be your number 1 receiver this week. And then your honorable mention for the receivers, your number 1 honorable mention this week is Russell Gage. Yes, if you don't know who this guy is, he's a solid option. And right now it looks like Matt Ryan's favorite receiver to throw the ball to. So if you need somebody, if someone goes down with COVID, remember Russell Gage because he's taking on Detroit. He's going to get a touchdown or 2. He's going to get a lot of yards, I believe. So watch out for Russell Gage. He's going to be your only honorable mention this week for the wide receivers. Moving on to the tight ends. Your number 3 tight end this week is Noah Fant. I know this guy has been on the crap list the entire season, but hopefully Teddy is all good, right? I really hope Teddy is better. And why is it Teddy? Why Teddy, man? Why Teddy? Leave Teddy alone. Jeez, poor guy. But it's Drew Lock now, and Drew Lock is known to throw the ball to Noah Fant. So I like the QB tight end matchup. So with Noah Fant now having a quarterback that throws him the ball, nothing against Teddy Bridgewater, but I think Drew Lock is going to get the ball to Noah Fant. So I think Noah Fant is your number 3 stardom tight end this week going into Week 16. Your number 2, and he looks to be, I guess, Jalen's favorite option. I guess. I don't know what Devontae's doing out there, but it's going to be Dallas Goedert. Yeah, Dallas Goedert is a solid tight end option. They put him in there. Unless you have Mark Andrews, George Kittle, something like that, put Dallas Goedert in there. I guarantee it. He's probably going to go off. He's against the New York Giants. They're going to want redemption against that horrible performance the first time. So watch out for the Eagles because Dallas Goedert was a monster last week. So Dallas Goedert is going to be your number 2 tight end this week. And your number 1 tight end this week is going to be Dalton Schultz. Clearly Dak's favorite target. Balling out, right? And again, you can have a bad quarterback game in fantasy, but a really good receiving game, just like Dalton Schultz and Dak Prescott, right? So Dalton Schultz, look out for Dalton Schultz because Dak targets him and throws to him often, and he does get touchdowns. So if you have Dalton Schultz, he's worth the start. He's worth the start because he's going to be your number 1 stardom tight end this week going into Week 16. And then we got 2 honorable mentions for you. Number 2 is Tyler Kroft from the Jets. Ryan Griffin, done, out, right? He's out. So Tyler Kroft is going to be the only tight end really in New York right now. And they do throw them the ball. New York throws the tight ends the ball. Whoever's that quarterback, right? Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, they throw the tight ends the ball. So watch out for that because Tyler Kroft against Jacksonville, that's a good matchup. Could get some cheap touchdowns, especially with a lot of their team, again, being out on COVID. So they have very few weapons. So Tyler Kroft maybe worth a look if you're struggling to find a tight end. And your number 1 honorable mention this week is Cole Kmet. Yes, I know he was also on the stink list, but as Justin has matured, right? He's getting this guy the ball more. He's actually able to execute and use him more. So watch out for Cole Kmet coming on a little bit stronger late on in the season, taking on Seattle again that has a crappy defense. So Cole Kmet is going to be your number 1 honorable mention this week. And that'll do it for this week's Stardoms, right? Next up, we got the sit-ups. Moving on to the sit-ups. Yes, moving on to the sit-ups. Let's get right into it. Your number 3 sit-up quarterback this week is going to be Josh Allen. Taking on New England at New England. The Bills, I'm just, I'm not riding with the Bills. The Bills are done. The Pats, coming off that tough loss, but I think that defense is gonna tighten up again, lock them down again. So I'm not liking the matchup. Had a horrible game. It was in the wind. I get it. It was in the wind. They have no run game, but who knows what the conditions could be like there? I mean, it could be downpouring snow, right? So Josh Allen, I'm not really liking the matchup against New England again, so I would watch out for that. My Josh Allen owners, don't let him cost you your fantasy playoffs. Trust me. Moving on to your number 2 is Dak Prescott. Your number 2 sit-up quarterback is going to be Dak Prescott. Yes, like I said, you don't need a quarterback to score a lot of fantasy points for a position player to score fantasy points. I was just kind of foreshadowing there. I hope you catch on now, okay? So we got Dak Prescott as your number 2. I think he has a decent game against Washington like he did last time, but as far as fantasy points go, I don't know. That defense is tough. They gave up a lot to Jalen, but I think taking on this Dallas team, we'll see. At home, no real conditions. But again, that Washington defense is nasty. That Washington defense is nasty, and they're going to come to play. So Dak taking on that Washington defense, not really liking the matchup. He got a decent game again, but nothing that you would want in your fantasy playoffs. Again, this is all about your fantasy playoffs. It's all about players who are going to go out there and get the big points for you. Hopefully. It's supposed to on paper, right? So, your number 2 quarterback this week is going to be Dak Prescott taking on Washington. Your number 1 quarterback this week is going to be Kyler Murray. Yes, same thing. You don't need your quarterback to score a lot of fantasy points for a position player to score a lot of fantasy points. And I think against Indiana, they are rolling. I mean, are they going to drop 3 games in a row? Ooh, that would be some fall. That would be a fall right there. So, Kyler Murray, man, that's rough. But yeah, Kyler Murray taking on the Indiana defense. I'm not liking the play. Look for something else. I mean, I saw that he cost some people some playoffs last week. Don't let him cost you another game this week, right? So, Kyler Murray is going to be your number 1 sit-up quarterback taking on that Indiana defense. Moving on to your running backs. Your number 3 running back this week is going to be Saquon Barkley, taking on that Philly defense who's tough Philly defense. Not really able to. He's gotten some things going, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, trying to put him in there for starts, kind of thinking, he's one game. You got to think he's going to explode, right? But I don't think it's going to happen here against Philly. At Philly on the road, right? I don't think it's going to happen. So Saquon Barkley is going to be your number 3 sit-up running back this week, taking on Philadelphia. Your number 2 running back this week is Antonio Gibson. Yes, Antonio Gibson taking on Dallas. Had a tough game last time they played. That Dallas defense is tough. Just like the Washington defense is tough. It was a defensive game, right? It came down to the wire. Not many fantasy points in that game, aside from a few position players, right? So, watch out for that. But Antonio Gibson is going to be your number 2 sit-up running back this week, taking on that Dallas defense. And your number 1 sit-up running back this week, and bear with me, is James Conner. Yes, James Conner taking on, again, that Indiana defense who shut down the Patriots running game and made an absolute statement to the NFL. I think James Conner runs into the same troubles that the Patriots did. So I'm going James Conner as your number 1 sit-up running back this week, taking on the Indiana defense. Moving on to your wide receivers. It's going to be a common trend, I think you'll find. Moving on to your wide receivers, your number 3 wide receiver is CeeDee Lamb. Yes, not getting a lot of fantasy points these last couple weeks. Dak has been struggling mightily. And I don't see it against Washington. So CeeDee Lamb is going to be your number 3 wide receiver, sit-in wide receiver this week, taking on that Washington defense. On the flip side, your number 2 sit-in wide receiver this week is Terry McLaurin. Now, every time I do this, every time I have done this, he goes off. He goes off for 20 points. So we'll see here. We'll see if we do some reverse psychology and some people leave him in now because hopefully I've given him the good juju to score those 20 points, or he just has a crap game because I don't know who's going to be quarterback. I mean, Garrett Gilbert, he was all right, or Gil Gilbert, whatever his name was, he was all right. But Terry McLaurin, not really liking the play, so he's going to be your number 2 sit-in wide receiver this week going up against that Dallas defense. And your number 1 wide receiver this week that is on the sit-ins is Diontae Johnson taking on the freaking Kansas City team that I don't understand. Oh my goodness. I mean, he's just that good, I guess. I guess he's just that good. Patrick Mahomes has gotten rid of his hangover, has basically taken Advil, Aleve, water, Gatorade, anything possible to get rid of this hangover because they are on fire now. They are on fire, dominating, absolutely dominating. So Diontae Johnson against a Chiefs team that is rolling now, not liking it. So Diontae Johnson's going to be your number 1 sit-in wide receiver this week. And moving on to the tight ends, last but not least, the tight ends. Your number 3 tight end is one of my favorites, is Mike Gesicki, taking on that New Orleans defense that absolutely crippled Tom Brady, ruining my guaranteed victory for the week. If you guys follow along, meet on the 50. So dumb. Cannot believe it. But Mike Gesicki taking on that New Orleans Saints defense. It's a tough defense. I got to give it to him. I mean, that's a great defense. So don't like the play here. But Mike Gesicki is going to be your number 3 sit-em tight end this week, taking on that New Orleans Saints defense. Your number 2 tight end this week is Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox for the Buffalo Bills, taking on that New England Patriots defense. I don't like it. I don't like it. So, again, I don't know what the conditions will be, but the Pats are going to play them tough. And, I mean, if they win here, I mean, come on, Buffalo. Come on. But, yeah, I don't like the play. Dawson Knox, pop him on the bench. Your number 2 sit-em tight end this week, taking on New England. And your number 1 is Kyle Pitts. Your number 1 sit-em tight end this week is Kyle Pitts, taking on Detroit Lions. I know it's a great matchup, you might think, but having a horrible season, horrible rookie season, and it's not really his fault. I think it's more the quarterback's fault, Matty Ice's fault. But Kyle Pitts taking on Detroit Lions. I don't really like to play here anyway, so Kyle Pitts, your number 1 sit-em tight end this week, taking on the Detroit Lions. And that'll do it for everything we got today on Stardom, Sit-em, or Get Rid of Them. No Get Rid of Them's going into the final thing of the season. I mean, I think you guys kind of know by now who to get rid of and who to keep. There wasn't really anybody new on there that I thought anybody would really put in to kind of warrant a get rid of. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of Stardom, Sit-em, or Get Rid of Them. Alrighty, and here we go. We got to get into it. One of the longest injury reports to date. We're going to get through it. I promise you we will get through it. And make sure you pay attention to all the names. And also, make sure to check the Google Sheets. That way you know. You know who is out, who is in, and that list is going to continue to grow. Make sure you are checking your updates constantly, right? So, without further ado, let's get into it in another edition of the Injury Report. Alrighty, let's get into this, and boy, oh boy, like I said, biggest list to date. We got 39 players on the Injury Report. 39, 15 COVID cases, so you're going to want to definitely pay attention to what we got going on. And I'm going to break it up into groups just because we have so many people. So I'm going to put all the people on the COVID list, reserve list, in one kind of group, and you'll see all of them there. We got a significant amount of people heading to IR, so I'm going to put all those people there. And then the main injuries, we're just going to do it like normal. So let's get rolling. So first up, we got Pat Freiermuth. Yes, solid rookie tight end going off the season. Suffered a concussion, entered concussion protocol. We'll see what happens. If he can get back Definitely may be warranted a play because of how solid he's been all season and how much Ben looks to him now and trusts him. But Pat Freiermuth suffered a concussion, entered concussion protocol, so watch out for that. Next up, we got Elijah Mitchell from the San Francisco 49ers. Concussion and a knee injury. Kid's banged up. Kid is banged up. Entered concussion protocol. Consider day-to-day. Again, if he can clear concussion protocol, definitely warranted a start heading into Week 16. Next up, we got Marquise Goodwin on the Bears. Marquise Goodwin, Chicago Bears, has a foot injury. He was inactive on Sunday. He's considered week to week. I don't know, not much of a fantasy play here. Maybe it was, but Marquise Goodwin does not look to be going for the Bears with a foot injury, considered week to week. Next up, we got, and this could be a big one, but from what reports say, he seems to be all right. We got Joe Mixon. Yes, Joe Mixon suffered that ankle injury. He was limited at practice, considered day-to-day, but it looks like he was back at practice today, obviously in a limited form. But if he's practicing, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. But watch out for that because you don't want to start him and then he goes down early. But Joe Mixon has that ankle injury, limited in practice, considered day-to-day. Next up, we got Harrison Bryant. Yes, one of the ones who could get healthy for the Browns and have that clutch touchdown for them. He's down with an injury, right? So ankle injury, considered day-to-day, limited in practice. If you need a tight end, he could be a play. If he's able to play, if Austin Hooper's not able to come back, if David Njoku is not able to I guess, get his freaking large feet in bounds. But Harrison Bryant, look for him, right? Ankle injury, limited in practice, considered day-to-day. Next up, we got Teddy Bridgewater, and I spoke on it earlier. Just can't catch a break. Kid can just not catch a break. Jesus. Teddy Bridgewater suffered a concussion. He's out for Week 16. Hope he gets better, obviously. Love Teddy. But I hope he gets better. But not going to be in there. Drew Lock will be in there at quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater out with a concussion for Week 16. Next up, we got Aaron Jones. Knee injury, that lingering knee injury that he has, right? Limited at practice, is expected to play, but just watch out for that. Still a lingering knee injury, just like Aaron's toe, but he was limited at practice this week, so just watch out for that. Next up, we got James Conner with the heel injury, non-participant at practice this week, considered day-to-day. So my James Conner owners, right? Watch out for that. I had him as my number one sit-em running back this week, but watch out for that heel injury as well. Next up, we got Zach Ertz. Yes, Zach Ertz, hamstring injury, limited at practice, considered day-to-day, considered day-to-day with that hamstring injury. They're going to need him. I mean, the problem with this Cardinals team is they're all crumbling, right? They're all suddenly starting to get injured, right? The injury bug is biting them hard. So Zach Ertz with that hamstring injury, limited at practice, considered day-to-day. Watch out for that, my Zach Ertz owners. Next up, we got Lamar Jackson. Yes, ankle injury. He's questionable. John Harbaugh said he's hopeful he can practice Wednesday. Reports looks like he was at practice in a limited fashion. Watch out for that. Again, Tyler Huntley was my honorable mention. That's if Lamar does not play. If Lamar plays, just watch out because that ankle's still going to be bothering him, and Tyler Huntley may come in that game, right, to kind of ease off the pain. So, if anything, Lamar sits, Tyler Huntley, honorable mention. Otherwise, if Lamar plays, just watch out because that ankle is still going to be bothering him, right? Ankle injury, hopefully he can practice. Looks like he's back in practice, though. Next up, we got Mike Evans. Hamstring injury, considered day-to-day. Watch out for that because that could be another issue. They're also losing somebody else that we'll get into. But Mike Evans with that hamstring injury, considered day-to-day. Next up, we got Julio Jones. My Julio Jones owners. So unfortunate. Just so unfortunate. Couldn't get anything going this whole season. It would be, if he lights it up in the playoffs, I guess that's where it really counts. But Julio Jones dealing with that hamstring injury. Game time decision on Sunday. My Julio Jones owners, I don't think so. I don't think it's really worth it, Next up, we got A.J. Brown. Same team, chest injury, considered day-to-day. He hasn't been able to get healthy. He looks to be returning from IR, so watch out for that. He's still dealing with the chest injury, so just keep that in mind if you want to start him. He's considered day-to-day, but they are looking to have him come back from the IR list. Next up, we got DJ Moore. DJ Moore, hamstring injury, likely a game time decision on Sunday. So for my DJ Moore owners, watch out because he's been getting the ball lately. Since Cam's been back in there, he's been getting the ball lately. It looks like Sam Darnold might be coming back as well. So DJ Moore with the hamstring injury, likely game time decision on Sunday. Make sure you are checking your app, whatever app you use, so that you have the right information on Sunday, right? Next up, all right, so the next category is this is going to be all the players going on IR. So let's rattle this off. Let's fire this off. We got going on IR. DeAndre Hopkins with a knee injury. TJ Hawkinson with a thumb injury. Randall Cobb, groin injury. Zane Gonzalez, if you saw the pregame footage for the Panthers, with a quad injury. Sterling Shepard, an Achilles injury. Nasty injury. Hope you get better, Sterling. Nasty injury to come back from. We got Ryan Griffin with a knee injury. J.D. McKissick with a concussion. Chris Godwin, that's the big one right there. That is the big one, folks. Chris Godwin, torn MCL, out for the season on IR. Crazy. Leonard Fournette with his hamstring injury, expected to go on IR. Not placed, but expected, okay? Just be on the lookout for that. And then lastly, Daniel Jones with his neck injury. Good thing is it won't require surgery. They're just going to shut him down, so they placed him on IR. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 10 people going on IR. I mean, wow. 10 people going on IR this week. 10 some big name people, helping some people out there, right? People needed these guys, right? So that's some big names right there. And then finally, we come to the COVID list. 15 people on the COVID list this week. So let's rattle this off. Let's fire this off. So we got Cole Beasley, Jared Goff, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, pay attention. Austin Eckler, Tyler Higbee, Kendrick Bourne, Jawan Johnson, Kadarius Toney, Michael Carter, Alex Collins, Tyler Lockett, Taylor Heineke, and Kareem Hunt. Some heavy hitters on that COVID list. Massive injury report this week. It's massive. 39 players. Woo, geez Louise. So make sure you're checking that injury report. Make sure you are checking that injury report. I'm just going to say it until it's ingrained in your brain. Do not lose your fantasy playoffs because you are the fool who just doesn't have, the wherewithal, the incompetence, because you're just not paying attention with what's going on, right? Don't let it cost you. So check out the injury report, but that's all I have for you on this week's edition of the Injury Report. Alrighty, and that will do it for this week's episode of Meat on the 50. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Thank you guys so much for investing your time. Please don't be the fool that leaves somebody in who's out. Please make sure you're checking the injury report. Make sure you're checking whatever you use for fantasy. Make sure that you are set to go within your fantasy playoffs to make a run and win that championship. Come on, we're all about winning here, right? I want you to win. You want you to win, right? I'm sure you want yourself to win, right? So make sure you're getting the information. Don't screw yourself, right? If at any point during this video you like what you saw, please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new videos drop, when we got content coming at you every Wednesday and Friday, you're right there to consume the content because we're always dropping the knowledge, right? We're just putting it right at your feet. You just got to pick it up, shove it in that head of yours, shake it around, and boom. Better fantasy player and a more knowledgeable football human being, right? Because that's what it is about. If you're not growing, you are dying. So please, smash that like button, tap on that bell notification, and then, oh wait, I forgot something. Just kidding. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new videos drop, you're right there to consume the content because we're dropping knowledge all season long. Best part about it all, it's completely free. Doesn't cost you anything, and helps out and supports us a great deal. That'll do it for this episode of Fantasy Time. And until Friday, I am your host, Jacob Cutler, Fantasy Guy. And until then, Jacob Cutler is out.